I thought I was going last. So, Carson is, hello everybody. It's really nice to see you again. It's lovely. Carson is all the way in from Connecticut, and I'm coming in from the other side of the country, Vancouver. So it's really nice to be here and spend some time with my brother. Very proud of him. I kind of nominated him by default. I suggested he should be a good speaker at the reunion, you know, before it started, and because they came up with the speakers for him, and they emailed back and said, well, he can't because we're just having the inductees speak, but why don't you nominate him? And I'm like, oh, okay then. And that began my discovery of my brother. I had his resume, which was very impressive. I hadn't known what he had done really, you know, he's my big brother, you know. You did what? I knew he'd gone to China. The story I kept was that he had, for exercise, been rollerblading around a big lake. So it was kind of Goliath in the land of Lilliputians, or something like that. Did I get my English mixed up there? Anyway, we moved a lot as a family, many times. My dad had a job that just kept switching around, and so we had education in different places. We learned to be adaptable, but it didn't stop my dad from starting big projects. They just moved with us. And the one big project, he started, I was 4, so my brother Carson was 6, was a large boat in our driveway. It was it ended up a 32-foot cabin cruiser. And as kids, we knew what, you know, I don't know what they are anymore. The axes and awls and screwdrivers and hammers, and I just remember that we were very much part of that kind of life. And long story short, it turned out basically we could do anything. It didn't floor us to, you know, wield a chainsaw and hack down, you know, great big bushes that grow up in Vancouver. It didn't think twice of doing that kind of thing. Or my mother would sew massive couch covers, and she was just in a sea of fabric. Well, we grew up with that, and fabric actually comes into this. Carson had something to do with fabric, but not the kind you think. There were just no holds barred in our family. So these big projects kind of set the groundwork for us. And when we moved here, it was in the middle of the winter, and we had to kind of jumpstart in the middle of everything. No friends, vast snowstorm. We moved up from New Jersey, which is called the Garden State, so into this snow blizzard area. And we were very warmly welcomed by students, by staff. It was an embracing. So school had a huge impact on us. We were very involved in music in our local church, choir, big projects. Carson has attributes which have stayed true to the core since day one. You know, I've always been able to count on him. He's my big brother. I mean, I think everybody should have one. It's just been, we can go from fun and happy stuff like rollerblading around the lake to very technical discussions that go till 3 in the morning without a blink of an eye. So this is something that I would like to pass on to you. It's my great pleasure to introduce Carson Payne, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here and coming back to short. I graduated here in 1971, and hadn't been back until the reunion last year. So it was quite a pleasure coming back for the 50th reunion. influences were very, very significant. King City, the school here, and teachers in my career. Primarily because, as Cindy mentioned, we've been working on large projects, moving quite a bit. And when we moved back to King, moved back in the middle of, for me, just in the middle of grade 10, a couple months into grade 10. And first person I met was Mr. McClure with my parents in guidance counseling. And I sat down with him and said, I was on an advanced course in New Jersey. We'd moved down there 6 years before. And I said, I've been programming computers since grade 7. Math and science, advanced courses. Already completed all the work in grade 10. And he said, well, you have a choice. You can take it easy for the rest of grade 10, or you can take the challenge and jump into grade 11. I took the challenge. I ended up with an extra Latin course that I had to take. I had 2 French courses after school with Mrs. Orr, and a lot of help from the science and chemistry teachers to catch up. And so that basically set my work. Also, I couldn't participate in sports because parents set an 80 average in order to participate in extracurricular activities. I desperately wanted to play hockey. I did get an 80.002. I got to play hockey. But I couldn't play basketball for the high school because I had to get an 85 to play basketball. So I didn't join the high school teams here because I struggled just to get 80.02. So my influences were Mr. McClure, Mrs. Hogg, working in English, miles to go before we sleep, miles to go before we sleep, sitting talking about what did that poem mean to different people. She was totally accepting other people's opinions and environment. We got to grade 13, failing chemistry halfway through grade 13. I wasn't going to graduate. But with the help of the science department, Mr. Hill, Mr. Carson, and my lab partner, Paul Bolton, it was a 4.2 average. I got up, you guys let me out of high school. Somehow, I got enough on the final exam to pass and get out. I then went on to University of Waterloo and walked into the dean. Well, prior to that, I built Expo Montreal, Expo 67. Got to take my first ride in a hovercraft around the island. And so one of my science fair projects here for KCSS was to build a hovercraft on our farm just north of here. Out of lawnmower, half a tire for the duct, fan from a car, some wood, some extra canvas that we had left over from our boat. And I turned it on in the garage. All it did was blow dust and sand everywhere. It didn't work. It wouldn't lift, it didn't move, it didn't do anything. I'm totally disappointed. So when I walked into the Dean of Engineering at University of Waterloo, I walked in and said, I want to transfer into Systems Design Engineering because this is the only course where I can learn how to build hovercraft better. And he said, that's a strange reason for coming here. And I'm going, what are you talking about? He said, you're the first student that's coming here with something that you want to do. Something you want to build, just not general science. So after struggling through university, taking business and economics classes as electives, which really wasn't allowed in engineering at that time, I started my first company, Hovercraft Fabrics Limited, and got my first patent, built models for NASA, which they were testing. And the problem there was, how do you land an airplane on a beach with no wheels? And so, some of the work that I've been working on, because my co-op work, I figured out how to stop the airplanes from bouncing. That was their biggest problem. What they were working on, so I developed fabrics that didn't bounce. So fabrics come into play. Cooking, my chat yesterday, to the students here was what's common between muffins, recipe for muffins, and the recipe for Crocs shoes. I spent 3 or 4 years with Crocs shoes down in Boulder, Colorado, supplying all the materials worldwide. I'm one of the few people that actually know the full formula to Crocs shoes. And again, what's common is bubbles. How do you get bubbles? Baking powder. Cooking temperatures are the same. So I was trying to explain how all the things we learned in high school and things we actually do know are common throughout all of the processes that I've been developing over the years. From starting my first company in Hovercraft Fabrics Limited, met my wife Beth, and I was building models on the kitchen table to go back to the shop to get it sprayed. And through that process, Beth said, you know, she was reading 3 newspapers a day. Read this article. It took me a long time. Are you done yet? Are you done yet? No, I'm still reading. She diagnosed me with dyslexia. Never knew what it was. Never knew. Still. Today it's still hard. Because through that, she was able to teach me how to accommodate why I never got the problems right in school. Science teachers helped me with that. This whole school, they got me through it, but we didn't know what it was. Anyway, the Hunt for Red October, when you're going through the canyons, through words in submarine canyons, underwater, submarines, I started reading. Beth just kept feeding me books. And I learned my way out of it. So from there, once I understood what it was, how to accommodate, doing math problems twice, doing them a third time to figure out which 2 were right. If I'd had time in the exams to do that, I would have had the A's that I got in design and computer programming. That's what I do at work today. My spreadsheets, I've maxed out Microsoft Excel. I have wallpaper of mathematical problems and business models. And I now design the processes for factories in the future. I've designed, as process architects, factories in Ontario that have been built down in Windsor, and in the U.S., in Boulder, Colorado. I was asked in 17 weeks to design and build a factory in Guadalajara, Mexico, which we did, and moved everything down there, laid it all out. I built and designed and taught students, factories in China, that there were only 1 person speaking in English and 600 people. And it was all hand sketches and drawing. And so what I had to say to the students yesterday was to follow your passion, because you don't know where it leads. Right now I'm Director of Manufacturer Strategic Planning for Fuel Cell Energy in Connecticut. It's the largest fuel cell company in the world. We manufacture fuel cells that are about the size of a tennis court and power hospitals off the grid, just with natural gas. It all started here with the teachers. Take the challenge, don't take it easy. You have no idea where your career is going to lead you. Through hovercraft, plastic injection molding plants down in Sarnia, and then through to, that project was unique in the sense that you're building a brand new plant in the middle of Tilbury, in the middle of a farm field, and you cannot get any high school students with the mechanical ability to run 2nd and 3rd shift. So I suggest that if you take the EKG machine off the hospital bed, and put it on every molding machine and show the high school students what the heartbeat of the pressure is inside the molding machine. That we could build a whole plant. Scrap went from 20% on one shift down to 2% over 3 shifts.
Oh, right.
By making it visible, the invisible, visible. But it was also a $2.5 million pure research and development project that nobody wanted to touch, particularly the plant manager, because he didn't want to spend that money and have it fail and be on his watch. So I was then made the manager of research and development. Put me in a trailer with 10 people. And we built the plants, and one of the ladies, forklift driver, became the senior programmer, moving the programs around the computers in that factory, and still today. It's a big green VDO box as you go down, big green box as you go down towards Sarnia, down towards Windsor. So from that, use your imagination, and don't say it can't be done. Don't let anybody tell you it can't be done.